everybody, it is Romania Black, and we're on episode 12 of March Comes In Like a Lion. And last episode was the end of the old year, the beginning of the new year with our boy Ray, and I'm super excited to see how he welcomes this new year. I'm sure there will be no neuroses, I'm sure there'll be no anxiety, I'm sure there will be no challenges facing Ray's way, right? Right? No, we all know how this is going to go. We're only on episode 12. We're just starting, I feel like with this series, with it being 44 episodes, I feel like episodes 1 through 11, if you're going by the traditional Japanese 4-act structure, that first 11 episode chunk was like, here you go. Here's your first 11 episodes, the old year. Here's Ray. Here's his dilemma. Here are all the characters he's associated with. Here's his relationships with them. And by the end of episode 11, it was Ray kind of coming to terms with whether he likes Shogi or not, he's competitive and he's going to keep fighting to stay alive and to get the things done that he needs to accomplished. And so I feel like episode 11 was a great little encapsulation, and like the curtain closed on Act 1. We now have a better understanding about Ray and his journey. So this episode's going to start Act 2, which usually in a Japanese, if I'm remembering correctly, see, in the American Western 3-act structure, you have your beginning, your middle, and your end, right? And usually you have like a twist towards the end of the second act going into the third. With a 4-act structure in Japan, I feel like the first act is the introductions. The second act is the conflict, where that amps up. The third act is what they call the twist, where the revelations and the stuff comes out to play. And then the fourth act is your conclusion and the climax and resolution of it. Anyway, I watched a series called Monster, and it very, very much fell into the 4-act structure. Like you could narrow down the arcs of where each segment begins and ends, and it works really well. I don't know if March Comes In Like a Lion is going to fall in that 4-act structure, but it has 44 episodes, so if you did 11 episode arcs, it kind of would add up, so maybe, but we'll just have to see. But I'm excited for Ray. I'm hoping, wishing him the best moving into this new arc, and we'll just kind of see where we go to from here. So with that in mind, though, I do want to give a shout out before we begin to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon, to thank those who are supporting the channel, and to thank all of you on YouTube and Patreon in general, because you all are awesome. But the philanthropy tier, they get a special shout out in my videos. So I want to give a special shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Be Happy, to Dana, to Danger Zone, to Destiny Marie, to Danny Donmai, to Davarin, as well as Ichu, and Eric Hong Yi He, Kiri, Elfreya, Linden, as well as Matthew Palfinier, Murphew, Nameless Monster, Nicholas, Sunspots, Shimoyama, Translucent Men, Trails, Inlee, Ninths, and then I think that might be it. In any case, thank you all so much for the support. You all are amazing. All of my love. I wore this shirt today because I was like, oh, it seems like it's a sunny shirt. It's actually storming outside. It has rained and been gloomy all day, and I was like, I'm gonna bring the ambiance here. And with March Comes In Like a Lion, it's like Ray needs all the ambiance. I'm literally being Nikaido right now. I am being Nikaido and channeling that energy the best I can. So let's get started and see what we get, shall we? We are going to start March Comes In Like a Lion, episode 12. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Nope. Every time I think that this show, I'm like, I'm gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be great. I nearly cried at the end of this episode. It was just damn Momo being so sweet, like his little baby sister. And she is like his sister now, right? Oh my gosh. I freaking love this show so much. And it does things that are just so, like, they just get you riled up, but in a good way, where you're just like, oh, how dare you? Like, oh my God, Goto. Oh, hoo, hoo, hoo. It took me a second, because sometimes the names of characters, especially side characters that we don't see a lot of, they take me a hot second to get their names down. And I was like, Goto, who's that? And then the moment we saw him, I was like, oh, it's him. So let's talk about this episode. The OP is like the Edie definitely has like a Shaft vibe to it, like the last ones did. I like both the OP and Edie, I really do. The OP like comes out of nowhere and slaps you in the face, and you're like, "What are these bright colors? What is this sunlight? What?" I think, if I'm being honest, I think that stylistically, I do like the first OP better, but I think in terms of the fact that it's brighter and happier, I like that. But then they get to like, talking about Godo, and then the one guy who is like the guy that looks like Ray only with the gray hair, who seems like a final boss. When they get to him and then Ray struggling through the snow, that's when it starts to feel more like March Comes In Like a Lion again. And I was like, oh, there we go. There we are. But man, this episode, and the fact that his family, like when he looks up in the OP and he sees his family, his mom, his dad, and his sister reaching for him, and then when he reaches for her hand, it's Momo and the other sisters. Oh my God, just I'm like, his found family. I love it so much. And then him like just peacefully sitting underneath the banister there. I'm reading Berserk at the same time. And that shot of him like underneath the flowers and like outside the house there reminds me of like Guts underneath a tree, and it just feels so serene and simple. I can see why Miura and her were friends. I can. So, okay. So it's after New Year's and Ray is feeling better, which is good. I love that this episode is called What Lies on the Opposite Shore, because way back a few episodes ago, Ray was talking about how every trek to rise the ladder of being a shogi player is like swimming from one island to the next. And he says it's treacherous, and sometimes you feel like you get to that one island and you just want to stay there. You want to be complacent and not move any further, right? And that's kind of been Ray's dilemma, is that he's made it to this one island and he wants to stay there, but he doesn't have the security in himself up until this point to believe that he can. And now that he's kind of turned over a new leaf for New Year's, he's kind of like, no, I'm gonna keep fighting and I'm gonna keep doing. So this idea of what lies on the opposite shore, it's like the monsters that you're facing are just gonna get tougher and tougher, and the battles are gonna get harder and harder. But I think it's kind of cool that Ray is realizing, or seems to be realizing, that at the end of the day, he kind of has like a kotatsu. He has a security blanket that he can go back to if the worst comes to worst, because the sisters don't care what his shogi career is. They could care less about the prestige of it, about the whole becoming the new Dawn or whatever. They don't care. They just like Ray as a brother, and they welcome him with open arms, and they don't question or judge him. So that's really nice, right? And so it's good that he has that. I think Ray is slowly realizing he has this home to go to, and it'll be okay. So he talks about going home after a few days passed, and home for him. At first, I was a little worried he was going to go back to where Koda was, but no, home is the apartment that he has. And he has the blinds open, and he's sitting there playing shogi and studying again. I think it's a huge step for him that he's making the ramen. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, well, that doesn't seem like a big deal. No, when you're living by yourself and you have to cook for yourself, it's so easy to be complacent and just like heat up something in the microwave or just eat junk food or something like that. It takes the effort to cook it, but him taking the effort to cook shows that he's serious and taking like his life and his health seriously. And he's not just, the sisters helped get him back to health. He's not just throwing that away. He's taking that, he's taking his health seriously, which is really nice to see, right? I love that. And I love him bringing it back there and eating the noodles. What's interesting is that he says, it feels strange. He's like sitting there, and then he like thinks back to all of them in the house, and he talks about how warm it is, and it feels like the kotatsu. And then he looks inside, and he's like, what is this feeling? Has the air conditioner always been this loud? Has the radio always been this noisy? Shaft was in full force, this animation, this episode. Everybody's heads were turning every which way in the most dramatic shapes and forms fashionable. But what's so kind of powerful about that scene, and it took me a while to think about it and kind of go, oh, that's what that is I feel like Ray, he struggles through depression, and he was having a moment of, if I don't get out and walk, if I don't move, if I don't get my mind going, if I don't do something but get out of this house, I'm going to fall into a trap. I'm going to fall into a pit, and I'm going to spiral again and be depressed and not want to get out of bed. And I can't afford to do that. I've got to study for this match. So I need to just get on my feet, move, do something to get out of this situation where I feel isolated and it's causing anxiety and my depression to kick in. I need to go do something. And the immediacy of that, and the fact that you're just like, oh shit, he's got to go do something now. Like that, I honestly don't think that I have ever had clinical depression in any way, shape, or form. I've had moments where I've felt what I would consider to be depressed, but I don't think I have depression. And so I feel like this episode and this moment kind of illustrates what that would feel like. And it's kind of terrifying, right? But the sisters help work him through it in that moment. And he's like, has the clock always been so noisy? And that's when he says, I've got to leave. I've got to walk. I've got to go right now. I know this feeling. I can't meet eyes with it. This isolation. He's like, I can't do it. Because it's like he moved away from Koda and from Kyoko and them to go live on his own. And we know how toxic Kyoko is. And so he's like, I don't want to feel tempted to go back to Koda. He's like, I need to stay here, but I need to do my match. I don't want to feel tempted to go backwards. I only need to move forwards. He's like, I know it, but I don't want to think of that name. If I say that name, I'll be dealt a blow that tears up my insides. God, and that shot of him with the light against him, I'm going to get a picture of that. The shot of that with the light against him and just his eyes reflecting. Oh, that's beautiful. Yep. And he's going over the shogi moves in his head as he's like, I won't be able to move again. So yeah, just talking about his depression and how much it hurts. Meanwhile, yeah, that little house where those sisters and them all live in, it just feels like a kotatsu. It feels like just something warm. And it's 3 times colder when you leave. You can't stay away from it though. And it makes you happy. That's right, their house is like a kotatsu. But the moment he leaves it, he's like, when he's inside, he's warm and comfortable that he almost melts. But then the moment that he leaves, and I like poor Ray has to like sit on the ground and like come to terms with this moment as he's spiraling. But when I leave, I realize the daily life I was fine with before is actually freezing cold, and I'm painfully reminded of it. So yeah, he gets this moment of being with them and savoring that company and that love. And then when he leaves to go to the apartment, he suddenly realizes, I don't have that anymore. And I hate this existence. I hate what's happening here. And he starts to spiral, right? So, but the problem is, as much as he loves the sisters and as much as he loves being there, when he's there, he can't focus on Shogi. And right now, in order to win these matches, he has to do that. So it's kind of like his test and his training is being able to stay away from them so he can study and get ready for the match. If I think deeply about it, I get so scared my whole body gets the chills. And I love seeing that shot of him from the first couple of episodes where he's like, I don't want to think about the idea of if I fail this. He's like, I don't know, but I have to think. He's like, calm down, sort out the current situation. Oh, if I stop thinking and stand still, I'll be stalemated. It's so crazy to think of shogi as this big sport where you have to like keep going and you can't slow down, you can't stop, or it's gonna be the end. And I think what hurts Ray in this case is the fact that he has done poorly and lost 3 matches, so he can't afford to lose any more. So he has to double down in this moment and think about what he's gonna do, right? I have 3 more ranked deciding matches this season. At the moment, I have 4 wins and 3 losses. So what does he say there? He says at that moment, he's like, I can't risk the rank. And he talks about his wins and losses. I need to get back on track and connect with next year. Does he say that it's like he can't rise in rank this season? So he can either stay where he is or he can fall off. So he can't rise in rank, so he just needs to focus on staying with what he has. He just needs to win as many matches as he can. The only thing I'm continuously winning through is coming next week. And that's the Lion King qualifier tournament. I need to focus on that. If the number of my victories decrease, then it's over. And again, we go back to the water and drowning, right? So this tournament is pretty interesting because it is all very publicized. It also has a lot of prize money. I was gonna look that up. They said what was it, like 600,000 yen a match that you could win. How much is that? That's 3,008. That's $3,800 a match. That's quite a bit of money for a shogi game. I'm like, that's a lot of money. Like in 2 matches, you could win 8 grand. Like that doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, like, what are you paying in? You know, the fact that it's sponsored and you can win a lot of prize money, that's huge. I mean, that's, rent, that's food, that's a lot of things that you could get from $4,000 a match, right? Interesting. Interesting indeed. So they go there and talk about everybody rising up, that it's in 6 groups of players, and it just goes it based on your participation and your track record at this point. I love there's all this fanfare and loud noises, and then we get there, it's quiet. I love that we have like the expectation and the inner thoughts about the tournament, and then when you actually show up in reality, it's so dead still, right? So I love Smith. Smith is amazing. I love the idea of the money. They're most excited about the prize money. And Ray, of course, is freaked out. 2 wins gets you 1.2 million yen. The Lion King tournament sure fires you up. Smith is like, I gotta get some money. This is like the Japan Open in golf. It's like the US Open in tennis. He's like, let's get some Kiriyama. And he's like, it's obvious. Status, glory, money, all of it. Oh, I love Smith. I'm sad that his eternal life partner Issa is not there to join in on the fun. But I love Smith's character. I love his humor. I love his voice actor. Like, he's just such a fun character, and I like the idea of Smith and Ray bonding and kind of getting to know each other more. And Smith is, whereas Ray is getting more and more emotional as the show goes on, which I'm all for, but he gets fired up when Goto gets there. But Issa's kind of emotional too, so I like that Smith is sort of the anchor to keep everything grounded when Goto's there, and there's that confrontation and he holds Ray back. I feel like Issa would just like have lunged at him for Ray and tried to punch him, and then Smith was like, that's not going to solve any problems. So Takashi Tsuji, the Ninth Dawn. Oh my god, he is basically, if Light Yagami was telling dad jokes, which is basically Reigen Arataka and Light Yagami. He looks like Light Yagami from Death Note, and he acts like Reigen Arataka from Mob Psycho. I really honestly thought that he was going to be more snooty and snobbish from the way that his stance was, like his little gestures and everything. But then he starts telling dad jokes, and Ray's like, I can't. Ray's like, I can't take him seriously. It's almost like a distraction mechanism where he's trying to throw you off, and Ray's like, I need you to go away. Like, I really was surprised. My expectations of Tsuji were a little bit different than what they ended up being, right? Meanwhile, while this is going off and he's this big offensive player and his jokes like throw people off, what does he say there about him? He says he's been rank A for 8 years. He's like, to kill a man on Kilimanjaro, and Ray's like, kill me now. He's like, I don't want to lose, especially to this man that's just telling lame jokes the entire time. And again, Ray is being so much more emotional, and for us as the audience to see that with him is so good. Like him just like internally screaming and rolling around in the fetal position, and then when Goto shows up, he like has a full blown just outburst. Like, it's so cool to see Ray not only getting more agency for himself and standing up for what he believes in, but also emoting a lot more, right? Even if it's just for us, the audience. Meanwhile, Smith's opponent is there. This guy, Okuyasu Yokomizo, who's the 7th Dan, who looks like Uryu from Bleach if he had like a little stylized haircut. I almost feel like Smith kind of like not flirts with him, but he's like, what's with the teardrop glasses? Like, why aren't you being fashionable? And the guy's like, what? Why are you saying this? Like, Smith's style of playing shogi is really cool. He lures you into a trap. He baits you, and then he sneaks up from behind and gets you. Smith is a fox in more ways than one, and I really like how Nikaido's little cat illustrations help illustrate the shogi match and show you how it works. I thought that aspect of the episode was really cool. It added this nice dimension to it. I really liked it. I thought it worked very, very well. But yeah, they're showing their match. And I love when Smith just has that little smile on his face like, oh, was that your choice? Did you choose to do that? Okay. And then they go through the shogi game like it's like a Final Fantasy run where you can choose your option. But yeah, just illustrating what the game is like was so good. And Smith being like, thank you. I'll win. I'll take that money. He's like, I want that $4,000. Meanwhile, we have Ray struggling with Suji. I'm glad that he ends up winning. I thought that was nice. That he's like, he ended up winning in the 187th move. Insane, right? So Kiriyama 5th Dan, Suji 9th Dan. I narrowly got a win on the 187th move. And then I love that he just like, he exits like a damn, like just a crime noir. He's like, looks like I drew my own draw. And Ray's like, leave. It felt like a 90s anime where the main character has the trench coat on. It's very Carmen Sandiego. And he's taking his leave and there's like the wind, the gust. Almost feels like a 90s BL, but you could say it's just a 90s anime. He's like, no more, too much. Okay, so in the special match room, we get this tournament where it's Masamune, which isn't Mune like water, Masamune Goto versus Kenichiro Eri. Okay. Oh, so here was the results of the match. Yeah. So, Okuyasu Yokomizo was with Tatsuyuki Mizumi, which I think was Smith. And then Rei Kiriyama and Takeshi Tsuji. Mm-hmm. And then Masamune Goto and Kenichiro Eri. Interesting. Or maybe it's just talking about Masamune being against Goto. Interesting. Whoever wins, basically, Rei has to take, Kiriyama has to take on his opponent, and then Goto has to face Eri. He's like, I've got Goto next? I wish I didn't. He's that old dude is pretty scary. I don't know what it is, but he's got a yakuza aura. Yeah, so let's talk about Goto. He is in fact old, which is creepy. He is in fact married, which is a thing. He is in fact an asshole and has yakuza vibes for sure. But it's very interesting how he frames Kyoko's stalking, right? Because then there's this big question of who's telling the truth and how much truth is there to it. Now, here's what I think. I think he is trying to have an affair with Kyoko. That's what I think, because he seems like a sleazeball who's like a creepy old man, and she's a 17-year-old girl who doesn't know any better and is trying to be rebellious and isn't thinking properly. And she's just like, sure, he's a rich old guy, I'll do this. And I'm like, that's a terrible idea. So, especially knowing he's married, which is a thing. So he's trying to treat Kyoko like this mistress, which is problematic in itself. But I'm sure the problem is Kyoko's probably egging it on because she talks about him giving her the watch and how she loves him. So of course she would have to be that person, right? You know, there are people around you that you're just like, why are you causing all this drama? Why are you doing all this drama? There's no reason to do that. You don't have to do this to yourself. Why are you doing this to yourself? She is that person. She's that person that you're like, girl, why are you having this drama? He's a married man. Stay the hell away from him. You know, you don't have to be near him, but he calls it stalking. Now, I think on the one hand, it is wrong of Kyoko to chase after this married man, and he's old, gross. But two, he definitely takes her advances, but then he labels it as stalking and puts the blame back on her, which is almost worse. Because I'm like, if you know it's wrong, tell her to go away and let it be. But he is clearly taking advantage of her, and then he's passing it off as she's a stalker. So when the time comes that he doesn't want to deal with her anymore, he'll conveniently make it seem like it's her fault and he's not the one to blame. And if I was Ray, I'd kind of get mad at that too, right? So then as they're getting ready to leave, that's when we see him. He's like, speak of the devil. And Ray's face when they see him is just like, Smith is just like, ah, damn, I hate it. But like, we see Goto. He does look like a yakuza with the suit and everything, looking so damn smug. And I'm like, dude, like, Ray is a teenager. Why are you picking fights with teenage kids? Get the hell out. What the fudge? Yeah, he just seems like an asshole. Like, just the moment he says, hey. And Ray, I have not seen Ray look so mad. Because it's not just the fact that his foster sister is clearly being taken advantage of by this creepy old man, which is bad enough in itself. And the fact that he tries to be like, oh, hey, can you tell Coda to get his daughter to stop messing around with me? Like, the nerve! Because I'm pretty sure if Coda, I don't think Smith knows who he's talking about, because otherwise he'd be like, what the fudge? I'm pretty sure that if Goto went up to Coda and said, hey, your daughter's hitting on me, Coda would probably punch him in the face. Like, being like, what the fudge are you doing with my daughter? Like, but he's so sleazy, he doesn't have the balls to go up to Coda and tell him that his daughter's trying to flirt with him. Instead, he tries to go to the kid that stood up for his sister, his foster sister, and tell him instead. Oh, hell no. Why these toxic people gotta attract each other? Why? Yeah. Oh, Ray's face is just, like, it's everything in this moment. So we see Kyoko standing there, and then Goto, like, punches Ray in the face. He's like, too bad. And of course, and it's not just the fact of all this of Ray, because even though Kyoko is toxic, she is just a toxic hot mess, and I wouldn't give her the time of day. In Ray's case, she is his foster sister, and Ray is such a nice guy that he can't stand the thought of this asshole taking advantage of her. And it's not only that, but it's his pride as a man. Ray's like, it's my pride as a person that you beat me up in front of her, and now you're standing here acting like nothing happened? Okay. Like, just, oh. And then him with his stupid bow-legged stance. And he's just like, oh, I see. He's like, if we keep going like this, you and I will go head to head. Oh, we know what's going to happen. I feel bad for Smith, but I don't think he's winning the next match. I think it's going to be Goto and Ray. I'm looking forward to that. And Smith is kind of looking over to Ray like, hey, you guys got beef? What's going on? It'll be more interesting than beating you with my bare hands. And Smith's like, wait, what? And that's when he says, oh, that's right. I want to pass on a message to your old man, Coda, about that stalker girl. And Ray's like, oh, nope. Ray looks absolutely terrifying when he's mad. Like, I would not mess with Ray, if I'm being honest. Tell her to get off my back. It's annoying. And that's so horrible, because then Ray thinks about how she told him that the watch was from him, that he gave it to her, and he didn't like seeing her without it, and how she said she really loved him. And he's like, she's really annoying, you know? And for Ray, he's like, that is such an insult to her, and you're taking advantage of this girl and her affections. You're playing games with her heart, and that's not cool. And like, and it's, you know, Ray's probably thinking, of course she's like this. And then Smith's like, oh, hell no, what we doing? I gotta stop you from getting in a fist fight. He's like, whoa, hold on, Kiriyama. Oh, Goto is just the worst. He's like, as for you, Mr. Goto, I like that Smith acts like an adult in this situation. And Smith's like, as for you, Mr. Goto, I think if there's something you want to tell Mr. Goto, tell him directly. Don't play games with this kid. I like Smith being an adult. And what else does he say there? He's like, new people like him are vulnerable. Oh. And then that's when we see this lightning flash of the chairman, who everybody thinks is annoying. He's like, the fortune fishing boat's back. And they're like, chairman, don't take your fish out here. And he's like, I'm going to. And he's like, another troublemaker. I love that Ray is a cat in this moment. He literally looks like one of the cats from the house. I freaking love it with his ears up. Oh, it's amazing. He's like, the noisy guy's back, huh? Hate it. Yeah, Goto is just a slime bag. I don't like him at all. Nope. I just love Ray, just him holding him back as he's just hissing like a cat. It's hilarious. So yeah. Oh my god. Anyway. Oh, if we have Goto versus Ray, that is gonna be a match, y'all. That is gonna be a match. Like Ray is training Rocky style for this matchup. Oh my god. He was saying some ominous things. Hell yeah, he was saying some ominous things. Yep. And then that's before they can go any further, of course. That's about the time. He's like, "Are you okay?" And before he can answer, that's when the chairman shows up with all the fish. So the chairman knows the aunt that runs the bar, and he knows about Akari too. I love the fish sounds as they're explaining the avalanche and all the fish, like it's the cat sounds that are giving the there's a stuffed avalanche. Like all of the noises are said by the cat voices, which is hilarious. And he's like, "Do you want 40 sardines, Smith?" And Smith's like, "A bachelor can't handle 40 fish." So Smith is available, y'all. Just so we're all clear, we're all good. And he's like, "What's the deal with the teardrop sunglasses? I thought it was some old hipster." I love Smith just trying to offer fashion advice to the one guy. And then the one guy's like, "Just introduce me to a woman who can fillet fish, chairman." Like, he's not wasting any time, which poor Smith, clearly not up his alley. And then he asks if Goto should take some because he's a married man. I feel like just that bit of information that's dropped to us that he's married. And then we cut from that over to Ray after he says his wife's in the hospital. Like Ray just standing there. That information being dropped is pretty important because if his wife's still in the hospital, she's been there a while probably. So that means he could cheat on her with Kyoko and get away with it. Nope. I don't like Kyoko at all, but what he's doing is repulsive. And I don't like him. I like him even less than I do Kyoko, and that's saying something. But yeah, poor Ray. And Smith goes over to see him. And he's like, "Well, I'm going to go." And then he's like, "I'm going to eat this and come up with countermeasures against Goto." And then before Ray can leave, he gets all the fish. I love this old man, like, puts Ray in a headlock. Poor Ray, he's not had a good day. He had to battle this one guy that told dad jokes. He had to meet the guy that punched him in the face again that's trying to, like, have an affair with his foster sister. And then he gets in a headlock by a man that gives him a buttload of fish. Also, he's like, "You shouldn't let people know that you're staying with Akari and her family because all of these guys," you can see Issa in the background. I like that you can see Suji and he's like trying to think of what he's going to do. They're all trying to like win over her affections. It would be kind of funny if later down the road, and I mean like years down the road, because again, these are teenagers, but years down the road, if Ray ended up like marrying Akari or like one of the sisters, it'd be Akari or Hina, but it would be kind of funny because then all the guys would be like, "No, we can't be with her because she's with Ray." It would be kind of funny if that was the case, but I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. But Ray being like, "What if this is a burden to her?" I like that at first Ray is concerned that all the fish he's going to give her is going to cause her to be burdened because she's going to have to like fillet and clean and get it all prepared. That's a legitimate concern, and I think it speaks volumes for Ray that he's thinking about that. But then it's like a stroke of fate, right? Because the one sister, Hina, was saying, "Yeah, after New Year's we were gonna have to like kind of scrimp and save because we didn't have a lot of money for extra food." And he brings all this food and she goes on and on about how helpful it is. And that just like warmed my heart. I was like, yes, like he did such a good thing for her, giving her enough to like get all of the food. So he says, "This house is like a kotatsu." And he says, "I'm scared I'll never be able to leave again once I go in. That's why I thought to stay away for a while. But here I am." It's like, yeah, no, it's like when you need it, it will be here. And then he goes in and then, yeah, I love Akari just like having such like a moment with all the fish. It's so cute. And then bringing him all the food, like just like the little lotus roots and carrots and the rice with the egg and everything. It's so sweet. Like it makes me want to, this show makes me want to cook Japanese food, right? It makes me want to make Japanese food so much because it just looks so good. And I'm like, oh, it looks amazing, right? And she's like, "Sorry, we don't have anything." And I'm like, "Don't have anything? He was making ramen noodles in a boiling pot of water a day ago. I think this is really great." I think he'll do. I think he'll do with that. Oh. And he's like, how can you say you have nothing? It's just seasoned with egg and soy sauce, but how can it be so good? And the miso soup. Oh. And then he thanks him. And then this part here where Momo asks him to spend the night with her. And Hina's like, yeah, we can make a jigsaw puzzle and do all this. And Ray's like, I could stay here. And at first, when he said, I'm going to go home tonight, at first I was like, oh no, Ray. I'm like, don't deny this family and the warmth that they're providing you. But then he does like my favorite thing in the whole episode. He communicates. He communicates with them. He tells them why. And I love that where he was like, no, Momo, I can't go, because she asks why. And he's like, because. And I like that he gives her a hug. And when he gives her a hug, he's like, this house like a warm kotatsu. He's like, look. And I love he sits her down and explains. He's like, I've got a big test to study for. And he like holds her hands. That part got me. The part where he holds her hands and says, I have a match coming up I can't lose. So I have to win this one first. And then when she holds his hands back and says, good luck, do your best. That part was so sweet. I just, donezo. She's like, you have to tell him, do your best. This part just slayed me. I'm just like, nope. And how earnest she is in grabbing his hands. Oh, it just melts my heart into pieces. I cannot, y'all. I can't. Nope. And then him just being so happy in that moment. I love it. Oh, Ray. Our boy Ray. I'll do my best. So he says Mr. Smith goes up against Goto first, and my opponent is Shimada, the 8th Dan. The two winners will square off. And then seeing him like walk back, that moment under the bridge where he's like, you could hear the creaking of the bridge and the wind howling, and you just see him like preparing for battle. Oh, so good. It's so good. Yes, please. Yes, please. And then we get the ED, which the ED, I have a feeling I'm going to be talking about the ED and the OP for a while, so we're not going to get too crazy into it. One thing I did want to talk about, because I haven't talked about this with last week's episode or this one, are the end cards. So the end card for last week with episode 11 was this one. And I think what's pretty cool about this one, not only that it's this really cute shoujo-esque illustration of them with the scarf tying them all together as sisters, right? Which makes sense. The manga artist for it is Mayoko Ano, who's a shoujo mangaka. You may recognize the name Ano because that is the creator of Neon Genesis. She's his wife. And I was like, oh, how cool. She's his wife. That's so neat. I love it. And then I found this other end card online before this discussion, so I'm going to ask the Discord who the mangaka is, and I will come back and let y'all know at a later time. But this is the end card for this episode, and I love the bluebird and the cats and Hina there, like with the street. It feels like deviant art, kind of like something digital. It's very different. I like it. I like the colors, especially the red lanterns and the umbrella. It's like she's waiting on Ray at the top of the stairs and he's got the umbrella is what it looks like. It's really cool. I like it. I think the end card for episode 12 works very well. It's kind of like an After the Rain episode. Oh, man. This episode was so good, y'all. But should we be surprised? Has this show missed? No, it has not yet. But yeah, so I'm really excited to see these next couple episodes and I would like for Smith to beat Goto, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be Ray versus Goto, and that is going to be a match. So we'll just see, won't we? In any case, I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll be back next week with episode 13 of March Comes In Like a Lion.